Hello everyone, how's it going? I am Louis, the Average Guy 1983. I hope you guys are doing great. Today I have an unboxing for you guys. This is going to be the LM Ultra by Rattan Ebike. So I do want to give a special thank you to the team at Rattan Ebikes for sending this out to me for review. And I do get to keep it, so this is a really good plus. The main reason why is because I'll be able to take this out more often and give you guys real world use of the LM Ultra. With that said, let's go ahead and roll the intro so that we can unbox it. Alrighty, ladies and gents, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the unboxing. However, while we're doing the unboxing, I did want to show you guys that it does come with a total of 5 straps. You got 1, 2, 3 that go at the top to bottom, and then 2 that go on the side just to make sure that the bike is well secured in the box. It does have large staples at the top and bottom of the box as well as the sides to make sure that it doesn't come apart. Now, the reason why the box looks small is because the bike that's inside is actually foldable. So that's a really cool feature. I've never seen a bike like that. I've never actually have ridden a bike like that either. So this is going to be pretty cool. You'll be able to load it into an SUV, a truck that's not that big in the cargo area, or even a minivan, or maybe a large size car that has a decent sized trunk, and you'll be able to take it with you wherever you want to go. So this is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and start unboxing it now. All right, let's open it up from the top. Okay, be real careful with the staples because the staples on the lid are actually sticking out, so you don't want to like hurt yourself by having it stab your skin if you're wearing shorts. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring you guys up closer so you guys can see what's inside of the box. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so taking a look at the top view of the box, once you open it up, this is what you're going to pretty much be greeted to. So you get one box here that has some, what sounds like, you know, tools inside, so there might be some extra stuff, so let's just be careful with that. And then you get a second box that's much larger. This one has your charger inside. It's a 54.6 volt, 4.5 amp hour charger. So it looks pretty nice. It has a LED logo at the top, your XLR cable right here, and I can confirm indeed that it is 54.6 volts, 4.5. Let me give you guys a close-up of that. Alrighty, ladies and gents, and hopefully you guys can see the charger information well. This is it right here, 54.6 volts at 4.5 amp hours for charging. Alrighty, ladies and gents, let's go ahead and open the second box. All right, now that we have this open, you guys can see there is a blue bag in here. Inside of this blue bag, though I don't understand what this means. Okay, cool. You actually get the rear seat cushion. So you guys can see right there. It's actually pretty soft. So we get the rear seat cushion to install. We can put that on later. But you know what? Let me put it back in the bag for right now so it doesn't get damaged. All right, so next is going to be a rattan bag that seems to have tools in here, and let's just take a closer look real quick. Okay, yeah, so you get the tools and you also get the pegs for the back of the e-bike so that your second passenger can actually have a seat. So you do get metal pegs and then these plastic covers that go over the metal pegs. Several screws. You also get an owner's manual for the LF and LM Ultra, so that you can be able to, you know, put your bike together. All right, so let's go ahead and put this to the side. Alrighty, ladies and gents, and the last thing you guys get is some pedals. All right, so you get a left and a right side pedal, and these are actually foldable, so we'll be able to test out that feature as well once we install them. Alrighty, so right here we get a piece of foam that's just holding the tire in place for the front wheel. On this side, we have another foam that's holding up the rear side together, and over here, we have one more piece of foam that's holding up the seat area and the rest of the handlebar location. So let's zoom out so we can unbox the rest of the bike. All right, so let's start taking this apart. Very well stapled. I'm gonna have to just yank it off. Let's do this side now. Very nice. Alrighty, ladies and gents, and this right here is how the bike looks like inside of the box once you open it up. I'm going to go ahead and grab it from its handle right here and also from the seat post area, and I'm going to just bring out the bike and then move the box out of the way. Oh, wow. Check this out. So this is the bike here, and it's super lightweight. So we'll take a look at the information real quick and tell you guys how much it weighs. Let me just get it out of the way. Alrighty, ladies and gents, so this is what the bike looks like, and the weight right now of the bike is actually a total of 86 pounds. That's 64 pounds for the actual frame of the bike and 22 pounds for the removable battery. So not bad for what it is, man. Pretty lightweight compared to some of the scooters that I actually own and other e-bikes. So this is pretty cool. I also like that it's foldable, so this is really nice. With that said, let's go ahead and take off the tape so we can start setting this up. Oh, this is looking nice. Let's see here. Oh yeah, and it's a solid black one too. Really nice. They do actually have multiple colors on these guys. They have a gray one and they have a black one. And for the LF, they actually have a red one and a black one. So I actually like the stealth color. There is some zip ties that you're going to have to remove. So you could either use wire cutters or you can use a knife. This gives us access to the handlebar. Alrighty. Okay, we got that there. It does have keys, so the keys are actually for the battery. All right, let me take the rest of this off real quick. I just want to be real careful because I don't want to scratch it. It looks really nice. I do see some tape residue I'm going to have to remove, but that's not a hard deal. I can easily take that off with isopropyl alcohol. Okay, so let's see here. There is 2 more pieces of foam. Alrighty, ladies and gents, and it seems like the bike is pretty much fully assembled. All we got to do is just start putting things together when it comes to the disassembly part of the bike. So let's go ahead and try to do that. Let me go ahead and put the kickstand on. Okay, for now we'll have this here. Display this way. Cables, headlight. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, and we have officially unboxed the bike and set everything up. The only thing I am going to leave off is going to be the rear seat post area and then also the pegs, because I usually ride these solos, so I'm never going to ride with anybody. If I do, I'll put it on, but most likely I'm not going to really be doing that. This bike does have a weight maximum load of 300 pounds, so if you're a 300-pound rider, keep in mind that this is the max you're going to be able to do. I don't think this is including anything else, but you could do some upgrades. For example, you can actually change the seat to a rack, and then in the front, you can also add a front rack if you really wanted to. So it's pretty convenient. You just have to, you know, pay extra to get that stuff. In my personal opinion, I would prefer to have like maybe a rack here and an extra battery strapped down to the rack. So this way, if the battery dies, just doing throttle power only, I can at least swap out the battery and not have to worry about that. However, you know, the battery does have a charger that's 54.6 volts at 4.5 amps hours. So you're going to pretty much be charging this battery in about 12 to 13 hours, give or take. So it's pretty decent for its big battery. The battery is 48 volts, 40.5 amp hours. So that's about 1944 watt hours, give or take. So, you know, remember that the watt hours is important for range, on the side of just knowing what the voltage is of the e-bike as well as the amp hours of the battery. So watt hours is super important. So if you were to get like a 52 volt e-bike instead of a 48 like this one, and it's like 30 amps or 20 amps, you're actually going to get more range out of this battery having 1944 watt hours versus the 52 volt 20 amp hour battery. This is just, you know, something to take into account. With that said, it did take me a little bit to set this up, even though I'm not going to be installing the seat post in the back or the kick plates for like the pegs. And the main reason why is because some of this stuff was kind of like off a little bit, off-centered. For example, the display was off-centered. I also noticed some scratches around the display, and I'll bring you guys up closer in a little bit to show you guys that. So I'm not sure if it was from the packaging, maybe, I don't know. But I just wanted to like bring that up. Nothing else seems to be scratched up though. But just the display from the bottom has a couple scratches on it. The bell that I'll show you guys in a little bit too came upside down and facing forward instead of facing the correct way. And also the battery plate was actually a little bit loose. So I had to take the battery off and tighten up the screws that were on the battery plate in order for it to stay nice and put and not move. So you might have to check that. And then the last thing that I was able to see was that the tires came with 14 psi for the front and rear tires out of the 30 psi that's recommended on the sidewall. However, if you're a big guy like me, I'm 288 pounds. Okay, so the way you see me right now, 288 pounds, right? 5'6". If you're going to be using a bike like this with fat tires like the 20x4s, I recommend that you turn up the PSI to 36 PSI. Don't go any higher than 36. If you want to do 35, cool, do 35. 30 PSI, that's like the minimum for like the wall side. I know the wall says do maximum 30. No, if you're a big guy, trust me on this, do 36 PSI if you have 20x4-inch fat tires, please. You'll thank me later when you end up not getting a pinch tire going below 30. So if you're doing 20 or 25 PSI, cut that out. Do 36 PSI if you're a big guy. With that said, let me go ahead and bring you guys closer here. I'm going to turn the e-bike around in a little bit so I can show you guys everything. But let's go ahead and start off with the rear. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. So starting with the rear wheels, you guys can see here, it does have some CST BFT 20x4-inch tires. These are, when it comes to the measurements, 100/406, rim size 20. And it has some super sexy mag wheels in black. Check that out. Look at this. Okay, I like these wheels a lot, man, so I'm sorry if I'm going overkill on this, but these are solid rims, and the reason why I like them is because if you go over harsh terrains, like really thick bumps, you have less chances of bending the rim. So having mag wheels like this, solid rims, super convenient, and I love that they're solid black. So with that said, moving forward, guys, you do have a 7-speed Shimano gear system right here, so you don't have anything to worry about with that. Everything should work just fine when it comes to the gear shifting, and we'll test that out when we take it out for a ride. Something else to note, it has a guard right here in the front so that this way it protects the derailleur so that you don't have to worry in case you like happen to turn over to the side, you fall off the bike, it has something here to protect it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, and going over to the center of the bike, you can see that it has a pro wheel crank arm. It does have foldable pegs, so all you do is just push these back and then lift up, and there you go. The peg is folded so you can store it. To put it back, just flip it and there you go, it locks right back into place. Pretty cool, huh? Alrighty, ladies and gents, and talking about the folding mechanism of the bike, which is one of its cool features, all you have to do here is just push this little tab forward. When you push it forward, open up the latch. Once it's open, you can unfold the bike and store it. When you get it out, fold it back into place and then just put this latch back on. And that's it. Very simple to use. It doesn't feel loose or nothing like that. It's actually on solid. And then this right here will be the handlebar that you will be grabbing onto to be able to travel with the bike and put it into anywhere you want, into a medium-sized trunk of a car, or for example, a small SUV, minivan, truck, etc. Alrighty, so coming over here to the front of the bike where the handlebar's at, this one is also foldable from the handlebar. So all you got to do is just push this little trigger here upwards for the latch, and then open the latch forward, and now you can go ahead and drop down the handlebar. And it does come with a really nice zipper pocket here that allows to keep the wires protected, from getting pinched, so you don't have to worry about anything getting damaged. Once you, remove your bike from wherever it is that you have it stored, as you have it folded, you can go ahead and start lifting this back up, and then lock it back into place, and there you go. And you're pretty much ready to go. Alrighty, ladies and gents, and talking about the handlebar here, this right here is the right-hand side. This is where you have your twist throttle mechanism, which I am going to be switching it out to a thumb throttle because I am not a fan of twist throttles. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I just personally prefer horizontal thumb throttles. However, with that said, it does have a nice feeling grip here. It does kind of move a little bit. I know other people have said it doesn't move, but it does move just a tiny bit. So I am going to put something more solid. Talking about the gear shifter, this is the Shimano 7-speed gear shifter, and it's really easy to use. You just push this button right here, and it'll change from gear 1 to gear 2, gear 3, gear 4, gear 5, gear 6, and gear 7. And to switch it back to gear 1, this little trigger here, wind it all the way back to 1. And there you go. Alrighty, ladies and gents, so up in the front of the handlebar, your right side brake lever is actually your rear brake, and the left side brake lever is your front brake. So keep that in mind. If you ever need to slow down, try to do your best to use both brake levers. Don't try to use the left side if you're used to having your left brake lever as your rear. Only because you don't want to go over the handlebar. You probably won't, but there has been some people that do end up flipping over. And this area here, like this is fully like um, turnable, like all the way. You can do a 360 turn. So that's kind of dangerous in a way. It doesn't have a limiter. I kind of wish it did, but it doesn't. But I just wanted to just let you guys know before you decide to place your order. However, we'll see if I recommend it to you once I'm done doing the test ride. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, and up in the front, you guys can see your controls here. This right here is for turning up your gears and turning it down. I would say just leave it at 5 and go with the flow. Here's your bell, which came upside down and facing the opposite way. So this part was facing this side, and it was also upside down. So I had to like take this off, put it the right way, so I can be able to use the bell properly. That's just one little minor thing that I wanted to mention. It's not a big deal, but just wanted to bring that up. Also, there seems to be a couple of scratches on this area here, and then also at the bottom here on this side. I'm not sure if it's just because of the packaging or what happened, but not a deal breaker. But just know, yours shouldn't come like this, obviously, but keep that in mind. With that said, here up in the front, you can see the display. If we push the power button, we'll be able to turn the display on. There you go. So let's take a quick look at the display. Alrighty, my friends, and this right here is the display. And I tried to get as close as I can to the button and the display at the same time so you guys can see this as good as possible. So what we're looking at here is the display here with the 80% icon on here. However, I wouldn't trust the percentage that comes out of the battery. The main reason why is because it tells you your battery percentage in 20% increments. So it has 100%, which is full, 80%, 60, 40, 20, and then 0. So just keep that in mind. There's no in between. So I would honestly trust the little icon that's actually on the battery. By just pushing the power button on it, you'll be able to see what like icons you have on the battery, and I would go with that a little bit better. I do wish that the display did have, or at least offered, a voltage meter at the bottom here as well. So I might actually have to install one on this e-bike just to make sure that I am able to keep an eye properly on the battery life. But with that said, you can see the gears. It's already set to pedal assist 5. When you drop it down, it starts to lower down the little icons here too in the color. So the red just disappeared. On this one, pedal 4 and 3 still remains with yellow. Check it out. Now once you drop it to 2, it goes to green. And then 1, and then 0. So again, I would recommend you just leave it at pedal assist 5 and control the thumb throttle or the twist throttle, whichever you choose to put on yours once you get it. And just control the speed that way. I think it'll be better. So pushing the I button right here will allow you to look at the time, the power of the motor, the odometer, which says 0.5 miles. So it seems that it was tested for about 0.5 miles to make sure everything works. And there you go. So going into the P settings, you just push the plus and minus button, but there really isn't much to report on that, unfortunately. So let me just take you guys into that real quick. So the P01 setting is basically just to adjust the display brightness of your display. So it says on the manual that it goes up to 3, but it only goes up to 2. So 00 is like low, 01 is medium, and 02 is high. And you just change it by pushing the I button. It starts to blink, and then you can drop down the display. See that? The color is dropping. Look at that. So just leave it at 2 if that's where it's at. Push the I button so you can go to the next setting. Push the plus button to get into the next one. This one is P02 is for your miles per hour in kilometers. It's set to 01 for miles per hour and 00 for kilometers. P03 is to set up your voltage. The voltage is set to 48. Leave it there. I wouldn't mess with that. All these other ones, it's not telling me at all. This one here, for example, P05 is for your gears. It's set to 0 to 5. So I would just leave it there. The P06 is for the tire size. It's set to 24 to try to give you the most accuracy of the miles per hour. You might have to play with this. So you push the I button and either go up higher or go lower until you get your accurate mileage based on what you're able to get under GPS and get a more accurate feel for your miles per hour. With that said, it has P07. I don't know what that is. P08 is basically for your top speed. Top speed is set to 70 kilometers, though it's not going to go any higher than 32. The main reason why it's not going to go any higher is because it does have a 48 volt, 28 amps controller for the motor. So those 28 amps right there, it's already giving you that limitation of 32 miles an hour or less. So with that said, everything else that you were able to see on the display before it went back to normal, it's pretty much pointless. There's no instructions on the display, so obviously the company doesn't want you to mess with anything else. So unfortunately, I can't dig into this any deeper because I also don't want to mess up the bike. So with that said, my friends, let's go ahead and go on over to the front wheel. Alrighty, my friends, and taking a look at the front wheel, you guys can see that it does have a 180 millimeter rotor, and the thickness is 1.9 millimeters. So I would say once the thickness drops down to like, I'm going to say maybe like 1.7 or 1.6 on the thickness, that would be a good time to change the rotor out, just in case of anything, so that it has a better bite. You won't hear any squeak sounds or screeching noises or anything like that. And also, you guys can see that the company does report that it has hydraulic brakes. They are semi-correct. I wish they would reword themselves and say hybrid brakes, because that's what these are. So these ones here are X-Tech brake calipers, and they are technically hybrid brakes. They're both hydraulic and cable. They're a little bit easier to maintain. If you start losing any braking force, all you have to do is just loosen this screw up right here and then pull this trigger up forward and readjust the brake, and then tighten it down with a 5mm hex key, and you're good to go. But with hydraulic ones, you don't really have to worry about that. They just slowly start going inwards and inwards, and they keep working until you have to change out the brake pads. So it might be a little bit more work than what you're expected to. So if you ever want to change these out, just know that you have to have something that will fit on the e-bike with 180 millimeter rotors. With that said, just so you guys can visually see it, let's take a look at the rear. Alrighty, ladies and gents, and this is the rear of the wheel, and yes, you guys can see it does have the same exact design of the rotor. It's 180 millimeters, the thickness is 1.9 millimeters, and it does have the same X-Tech hybrid brake caliper. It does have a little cover that you can, take off or remove. It's just a simple cover. You might actually lose these, so you might want to just take them off in case of anything, and not let it, bother you if it ever gets lost. This right here is actually the two screws that you would be loosening up so that you can actually install the bracket for the peg for the rear passenger. But again, I don't have any intentions of having a rear passenger on here, and I am going to be purchasing a rack later on for the seat area for replacement, so I'm not too worried about that. But I just wanted to show you guys the way the rear sight looks. Alrighty, ladies and gents, and taking a look at the battery here, this is a 48 volt 40.5 amp hour battery. When it comes to its watt hours, for like if you're concerned about range, it has 1944 watt hours. That is really big for a battery. So the way you see this battery, it really is massive. It's 22 pounds with a bunch of cells in it. So it does have a XLR charging port right here on the front that you just easily plug in. One is positive, two is negative. For the top, the bottom one is not being used, just so in case you're looking for a faster charger than 4.5 amps. I do kind of wish they offered a 5 amp battery charger instead of 4.5, because they'll charge a little bit faster considering it's 40 amps. But it does have a key, and it's actually functional. For example, when you have it in the off position, it really does cut the power out. And there's other small like mini bikes that I'm not going to bother to mention in this video, but when you have the key, it does absolutely nothing. And with this one, it does. You try to push the power button, it's not going to turn on unless you have the key, but just make sure not to lose your keys. I would say keep one with you and keep one stored somewhere else, like in a garage or a shed or a basement, somewhere where you can secure your key so you don't lose it. With that said, to remove the battery, you actually have to turn the key to the left, inserting it all the way in, turn it to the left, and once you have it there, you'll be able to push this little button in right here on the side of the seat. The seat goes up, and then you're able to remove the battery if you need to. To put it back, just turn the key, and if you turn the key all the way, you do have to leave the key on, by the way. You'll be able to turn the ignition on and then push the power button on the handlebar area so that you can turn on the e-bike. Alrighty, my friends, so something else that I forgot to mention about the battery is that it does have a little button right here that you can press and hold, and it'll let you see how much battery information you have on the display. It has 3 green lights and 1 red. So I think that it would be better to keep an eye on the display information here on the battery directly instead of the display at the front of the handlebar. Now, talking about the seat, this seat is a little on the small side for somebody like me at my size at 288 pounds. I am 5'6". It's a little too small for my keister, man, and I'm just being honest. So I'm going to be purchasing the larger size seat from Rattan Ebikes, and as well as the rack for the rear, and have that sent out to me because this seat is very small. However, it's easily adjustable, and again, if you push this little trigger button in right here, you can lift up the seat and then make your little adjustments that you need to make, because you're most likely going to have to use the same bracket, just changing out the seat post itself. On top of that, it is adjustable from the height. So you just open up this lever here and you can raise it up or bring it back down. In this case, I have it down. You can also adjust it however you want to have it to make it feel comfortable. In my case, I'm just going to leave it right around here and tighten this back up, and we're good to go. Now, right here in the rear, my friends, this is a comfortable seat. This is way more comfortable than the front seat. I don't know why, but the cushion here is really awesome. But because I don't have any plans on using this seat for a second passenger, I am going to be removing the seat and installing a rack in its place instead. I think the rack for my use is more beneficial, especially if you want to do, things like DoorDash with this. You definitely can with its massive battery. It'd be better off to take this off and install a wider size rack, so that this way you can have either one, an extra battery for your range, or two, a large size bag that you can put on the rack strapped down so that you can do your door dashing. Alrighty, ladies and gents, and once you turn on the tail light and headlight with the plus button by holding it down for a few seconds, you can see that this right here is actually the tail light, and the light in the center, the strip, that strip right there is actually the brake light. See? There you go. Unfortunately, this bike does not have turn signals. However, there is aftermarket turn signals that you can install that are battery powered. So I would just say do some research for yourself, and you'll be able to get some turn signals to add to your e-bike, so you can have turn signals in the rear and turn signals in the front. Let me give you guys a look at the front of the headlight. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the front of the headlight right here. It is adjustable, so all you got to do is just face it in the position that you want to face it in, and then tighten it down so that it doesn't move out of place as you ride. And again, all you have to do is push the plus button for a few seconds and you'll get your headlight to turn on. In this case, I have it low, but if I face it upward, look, there you go. You can see just how bright it actually is. So it's not supposed to be a super bright light, because if it was super bright, it would drain out the battery pretty quickly. But again, to turn it off, push and hold the plus button for a few seconds and it turns it back off. So I would recommend an aftermarket headlight to have as your main headlight, and maybe use this one right here as a fog light facing down up to about 20 feet away, so you have enough stopping time. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, and we're now on the next day. I did have to fully charge the battery just to be fair to the e-bike here. So yesterday when I unboxed the bike and everything, the battery was actually at about 30% battery life, so it took several hours to charge to 100%. I do have the tire pressure set to 36 psi for the front and the rear tires. A couple things I did want to mention while I was riding over here. I was able to confirm that it does have a cadence sensor. It got a little scary because the motor was randomly cutting power off on me while I was doing full throttle, and then it would kick in when I would start pedaling at 0 to like full power. So it's definitely not a torque sensor, because the torque sensor like runs in real time. The faster you pedal, the more speed you get with the motor. And with a cadence sensor, it's basically as soon as you barely start pedaling, it goes from like 0 to 100% power. So kind of like if it had how do you call it, those square wave controllers versus sine wave kind of deal. So that's kind of like the difference between cadence and torque sensors. So with that said, I did want to let you guys know that you need to be careful when you ride this e-bike around, because it does have a very low ground clearance. So convenience of the e-bike is that it's a lot smaller frame, so it's going to be much easier to travel with. So that's a huge plus. But a big disadvantage is the ground clearance. So let me explain. Right here at the bottom, right here where you can see the peg or the pedal, it only has about 3 fingers worth of space, which is about 2.5 to 3 inches worth of clearance from the ground. So you can see that there's not a lot of clearance right here. And I did manage to scrape the pedal here when I was doing a turn, because I forgot that I had to put the pedal like this in order for me to be able to turn to the left or turn to the right and not have any problems with scraping the pedal. So it's just something I'm gonna have to get used to when I ride the bike around. But overall, it did pretty good on the way over here. On the side of it, you know, randomly cutting power because of the cadence sensor. And in the back here, or on the side, I forgot to mention too that the motor power here is actually a single 1000 watt nominal motor that peaks at 1800 watts. I did show you guys a picture of the controller that's literally at the bottom of this box on the opposite side where you can open it up, and it has a 48 volt 28 amp controller. So you know, pretty much what you're about to see is what you get out of the box without any settings changes, and I think it should be fine that way. But yeah, other than that, we're gonna go ahead and test it out. When it comes to the tires, I am going to have to change them out because these tires are very soft, so they're not puncture proof. And I live in LA, so living in LA and traveling to the areas that I always go to when I do my range test videos, I always have to deal with, you know, sharp rocks and, you know, small pieces of glass. And taking these very soft tires along is going to cause a puncture. And it's not like that there's anything wrong with these tires. It's just the road conditions where I live in require me to have heavier duty tires. So I already purchased the Ultraverse Road Dominator tires that I also have on the Emma 3.0 bike. They have been working very, very good, and they're much thicker tires, almost like car grade tires. So I'm going to be switching those out. But yeah, I noticed that here from all of the gears from, you know, 1 through 7, my favorite gear here is number 4. So I'm leaving it there. So right now, as you guys can see right here, it is on gear number 4. It starts off with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, where 7 is the smallest gear and number 1 is the biggest gear. So it's much easier to have it like an in-between thing, so that when you keep going, you know, or you start pedaling, it does take off pretty fast and it doesn't do too much of ghost pedaling once you reach a specific speed. So with that said, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and hop on this bike and we're going to see how it does. And I do have 1.9 miles on the trip information. You can kind of see it right there that I have 1.9 miles that took me to get from my house to this exact spot. So yeah, let's go ahead and take off and see how it does with the speed. Alrighty guys, here we go. So we are going to pedal assisted but push on the throttle at the same time. So here we go. So it does have a very fast takeoff. Okay, right now I'm already starting to ghost pedal. So whatever that speed was that you're seeing right now on the screen, that's where I started to ghost pedal. So now I'm just keeping my my feet straight on here. So it says 34.2 on the display, so not bad. In fact, I'm going to have to slow down a little bit because these cars are not going as fast as I am. But yeah, 34.5 is what I'm getting out of the e-bike here. Now it's dropping to 32.1 because we are going, you know, slightly straight, but we are about to go up an incline, so we'll see how it does. And again, man, it does randomly sometimes like lose power a little bit because of the cadence sensor that I've noticed. Now it's picking up power again. So kind of weird, you know, kind of weird. But here we go. 32, going up an incline. 31 now. 30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24. It says I'm going 24 out of the 26 that it says here on the display. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but here we go. Speeding up again, 33.9, 32.9. And this is me not pedaling because again, at about 15 to 20 miles, I started to ghost pedal. And it does seem to be like somewhat cutting speed, and then it like continues to start throttling again, and then it unthrottles. It's kind of weird, but this probably has to do with the cadence sensor. So there we go, 34.6. Let me slow down here a little bit. And it seems like it does have ABS braking on these X-Tex brakes because the bike is pulsing as I'm slowing down. .9, 33.1, it just keeps fluctuating. Now I am on a flat surface road. It does seem to go pretty fast, man. It's actually pretty quick. But I do feel it like letting loose a little bit of power and then pushing itself again. It's almost like it's automatically disengaging the throttle and then re-engaging the throttle. And there is about a 1 second delay when you press the throttle down. And make sure that I'm able to get across here. $32.1. All right, now it says 30. All right, not bad. It's actually doing quite well. Now the seat that I was mentioning here is not as comfortable. It definitely feels like I need to get a larger size seat. So I'm gonna look to see if I can find a good seat. If the seat is a little too expensive at the Rattan e-bike store, as well as the rack, I may find something aftermarket to put into this e-bike, but I do want to get a rack instead of the rear seat. And when it comes to the actual seat, I do want to get the larger size seat or extra large seat, because this medium sized seat doesn't feel as comfortable. I mean, it's not bad, but I can imagine riding for like an hour being a real sore. So yeah, man, not bad. Not bad at all. So hopefully we were able to get some good GPS data here for the e-bike, but man, does it have some good torque on it when it comes to this like takeoff speed. It's pretty damn quick. But again, I did notice that there's about a 1 second delay when you push the throttle down. And again, if you push the throttle, because it does have some brake sensors, it does cut off the motor, but you don't see any warning sign here on the display telling you anything. It just cuts the power. So this is convenient. I am going to be changing this out, so I'm definitely not keeping the twist throttle. I'm changing everything, and I'm going to be adding some aftermarket wireless turn signals and motorcycle grade horn to be able to feel a little safer on the road, especially when I do a range test on it. It does claim 120 miles of range. I would say divide that by half. Never believe whatever the company tells you when it comes to the range. And this is for every company, including InMotion, Tavaron. It doesn't matter who it is. They always give you like a slightly overinflated estimate of the range that you will get on the e-bike. And there's a lot of like different requirements. For example, like a 150 to 160 pound rider riding on a flat surface and then riding at the slowest speed possible to get, something like 120 miles. And that's not realistic for most people. Most people, especially here in the US, are above 160 pounds. So, again, you can be up to 300 pounds and ride on this bike. When it comes to the comfort of the bike, when it comes to rideability, I do feel like I'm facing a little too close to the handlebar area, but it's not a deal breaker. It feels okay. I know that the reason why it feels that way is because the battery is right in the location where, the actual seat should be. Like, I feel like right here in this area, this seat should be more like in the middle right here. So if it was like right here and then sticking upwards, like you see this, right in the middle of this, it would feel a whole lot more comfortable. But then there won't be a proper position for this large size battery. So again, not a deal breaker. And again, this is a foldable bike, so it's a lot more compact. So it feels pretty good, man. It really does. I'm very impressed with the bike. So let me go ahead and take a look at the data performance on the GPS info, and then I'll meet you guys in the basement and then give you guys the rest of the specs on screen. And yeah, we'll go from there, guys. Let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, and now we're back in the basement, and now I just wanted to talk to you guys about the overall ride quality and see how the performance did with the e-bike, especially with this 48 volt 28 amp controller, and talk about that cadence sensor on the motor, because that was kind of weird but not a deal breaker. So starting with the ride quality, from a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is terrible and 10 is excellent, I'm gonna have to give it an 8. Now the reason why I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 is because though it did not have a rear suspension like shocks in the rear, it still actually had a shock on the actual seat post, which did help with the ride quality. Now, unfortunately, if you were to ride with a rear passenger, your rear passenger is going to feel everything that you are not going to feel. So that's just something to keep in mind. I personally think you should just remove the rear seat and put in a rack and have that for, like, you know, storage of another battery, or if you do door dashing, that'll be a great choice for that, depending the kind of rack you want to get. You can get one at Rattan e-bikes, or you can probably get one somewhere else, like off of Amazon. Doesn't really matter. You just got to make sure that the rack fits in the posts that are on the actual rack itself when it comes to the framing of the bike. The other thing is that, again, the front shocks are not adjustable, but they felt pretty decent going over, you know, some slight little bumps or dips. It didn't feel harsh. It didn't feel like I felt any kind of impacts. It felt pretty good. Could have also had to do with the tires being softer, but they're super soft, so I do recommend that you change them. I'm going to be putting on the Ultraverse Road Dominators on the bike because I want to feel a little bit more safer. Putting heavier tires means that I am going to lose my top speed of 33 miles an hour. It's probably going to reduce it to 30, but I'm okay with that because I'd rather have heavier duty tires that can prevent flats as much as possible than have lightweight tires that give me better top speed. That's just my own opinion, especially for the LA streets. Now, when it comes to its braking, the braking did pretty good. This is something expected because my son's Roadrunner V3 has the same exact brakes, and it does have ABS where it kind of gives you like a pulsing type feel depending how hard you press on the brakes, but it's just to prevent the brakes from locking together and you skating out of control. So that's a big plus on the brakes. Again, you do have to adjust the cables in case, you know, the brakes start losing any force. Just loosen up that bolt that I told you guys about, and then just turn up the little arm for the brake pressure, and then tighten everything back up and you're good to go. When it came to its top speed, I got a top speed of 33 miles an hour, and I thought that was really, really good considering that on their website they're telling you that they have a top speed of 32 miles an hour. And I did see other people's videos where they were topping out like at 30 miles an hour or maybe 31 miles an hour. Maybe this was with them with the stock tire PSI, and again, my stock tire PSI was 14 PSI for the front and the rear tires, so I definitely had to turn up that tire pressure because 14 psi would have definitely gotten me a pinch flat. So I definitely did not want to go through that, so I'm glad that I was able to pre-check everything before taking it out for a ride, charge up the battery. Everything worked out good, and this is with the battery being at 100% battery life. So this is just to be 100% fair to the bike and having everything at 100%. So it did really well. So when it comes to the weight of the bike, I feel like it's pretty good at 86 pounds. I think that's a really good weight. And again, you can reduce it to 64 pounds by removing the battery if you want to load up the bike into your car after you fold it up. So that's really convenient. And then just have the battery probably in the rear seat and the bike itself in the trunk. That would help a lot, especially since you could collapse the bike in half. You can collapse the handlebar, so that's a really big plus. And even the pedals, you can actually fold them upwards, which is another plus, so that you don't have to worry about it being like lopsided or anything like that inside of the trunk. Now, the other bike that I have is the Road Emma 3.0, and comparing the two, the Emma 3.0 is like a giant bike that's very heavy, but it also handles a much heavier rider of 450 pounds versus 300 pounds on the Rattan e-bike. Now, when it comes to the size, I feel that the Emma 3.0 is more like a Ford Expedition Max when it comes to its sizing, because it's a massive e-bike. And then this one here, which is much more convenient in size, easier to take on a train, etc., I would consider this one like a Ford Explorer, just to like give you guys a size difference, where both of them are very well capable of performing well, like you guys were able to see. 33 miles an hour top speed, not bad. And again, man, it just felt really nice overall. Now, when it came to the seat position and the handlebar, like when it came to the handlebar being here and the seat being here, it felt a little too close. And like I mentioned in the video, it's because of the location of the battery. But again, I felt zero stability problems, no like wobble feeling or anything like that. I've seen other people that review different bikes, and they talk about like having the handlebar start wobbling up in the front, and it's because of bike instabilities based on the location of the batteries. where the battery is at on this Rattan LM Ultra, man, it's a perfect spot. It really is. It's just too bad that you can't make the seat go maybe another 3 to 5 inches back. And the same thing with the height of the bike because of the pedals, man, being about 3 inches off the ground. It'd be nice to have another 3 inches higher off the ground, man. And then again, when it comes to the display, it'd be nice to be able to see the voltage information too, not just the percentage, because I would rather depend on voltage and have a voltage chart on my phone so that this way I can keep an eye on that and make sure where my voltage is at, so that once I start, reaching a critical point, I'll be able to turn around so I can start heading back home and not have to worry about completely making the battery die and being stranded somewhere having to pedal a heavy bike back home. But again, 86 pounds is not as heavy as other e-bikes that are like 150 pounds plus, so it's not going to feel that bad. It should be pretty decent to that of a mountain bike. So with that said, my friends, I do have an affiliate discount code right now. With my discount code TAG1983 at self-checkout, you can actually get $100 off on the already low price. So you're going to be dropping the price from $1,399 down to $1,299 with my discount code TAG1983. So be sure to take advantage of that if you want to get this bike. Again, there are two models that have the same exact specs. You got the LF Ultra shown here and also the LF Ultra, which is a step through. Whichever you feel comfortable with. Remember, they both have the same exact motor specs, battery, everything. So it just depends what is your favorite type, a step through bike or upper step. So that's just your choice. With that said, my friends, I will let you guys go, and I will hopefully see you guys on the next video with everything already modified on that bike and ready for its official range test. Alrighty guys, I will see you guys in the next video, and thank you so much for tuning in. And remember that these videos and me being able to get recognized by companies would not be possible if it wasn't for a viewer like you. So thank you very much for being around on the channel, liking the video, commenting whether it's a good comment or a bad comment, and also subscribing to the channel, because that helps promote the video and have other companies that want to work with me reach out. Alrighty guys, I will see you guys on the next video. Peace for now.